Okay, back on LinkedIn with Ernie. Ernie, you're always on LinkedIn. You're out there helping people all the time. I love seeing the interaction. You're sharing jobs and doing all kinds of stuff, but a lot of people may not know that you also transitioned from law enforcement. So why don't you share that story with us? Tell us what helped, what hurt, what you learned, what you do differently, stuff like that.
Sure. Well, I think one of the biggest mistakes I made was not preparing for that day. I don't recall if I even had a LinkedIn account the day I retired. Uh, but I eventually ended up getting connected into a networking group in Southlake called the Southlake Focus Group. And that
Hmm.
was a group of individuals who really helped form my job search. They taught me how to do a job search. They helped me get my LinkedIn together. I was introduced to my leadership coach who got me hooked into doing the Gallup Strength Finders or Clifton Strengths, which really helped me focus what I was looking for and to take those strong skills that I had and those passions that I had and focus them where I wanted to be at. Um, that was probably the biggest thing that I did was join a focus group and be around other people who were looking for work and focusing on developing those connections. And that's when I really started getting into LinkedIn. And then I met Eric Vento, and that was really the catalyst. The South Lake Focus Group, their motto is hope, practice hope, help one person every day. And then whenever I met Eric, he was constantly sharing these jobs that he was finding and sharing with people. And I'm like, man, that's a great idea because you're setting up all these searches on LinkedIn or on Indeed or some other platform, and you're getting all this data that's coming to you every day about jobs. And, very few of them you're actually going to be interested in or you're going to be qualified for, but somebody else is. And so by sharing those jobs, you're sharing those with someone who is looking as well. And there's entirely the possibility that you're going to help someone find one of those jobs, and that job's going to change somebody's life, or it's going to help their family. And so that's really the catalyst for it is just helping others.
That's awesome. What would you do differently in your transition? I mean, most people join ASIS or they go to a chapter function and that's how they get hooked in with other security professionals. But you went to a focus group, and so I imagine in that group you were probably the only person focusing on security stuff. Did that play into it at all, or were you there with other security minded folks?
No, I was the only one. There was IT people, there was HR people, there was engineers, there was everybody. I was the only security person that was there. I was the only. I think there had been one former law enforcement officer that had come through maybe the year before, and so there wasn't a whole lot of networking as far as within that group, as far as security goes. But the networking I did there was really developing relationships with people who were in all these different sectors. And whenever you're developing relationships, and that's really the key, I think, in the job search is relationships. People hire people that they like, and if you have a relationship with someone and they like you, if you've known someone for 10 or 15 years and they know what your work ethic is and they know that, whenever you're a team player, that things get done. And, whenever somebody on the team is kind of slipping behind a little bit, they know you're going to pick up the ball and run with it. Uh, you don't have to prove yourself generally in an interview in that situation because that person you already have that relationship with has already told that hiring manager what you're like and what you're going to do. So the biggest thing I would have done is I would have started a couple of years out, probably at least a year out before retiring, in order to start laying that groundwork. But as you and I both know, it's not just relationships. As cops, We do a lot of different things. And depending on what you did in law enforcement, you're going to have a lot of really good transferable skills that you're going to be able to move over to the private sector. But I think most cops just don't realize how to articulate those skills, those transferable skills, into the corporate sector. And by starting that transition networking process early, before you do that, you'll learn the language, the corporate language, and that will help you eventually whenever you do start landing interviews and start trying to figure out where you're going to go.
Great point. And did that group help you land the job that you have now, or did it just help you get into the private sector, into the industry?
I think every person I've ever met in my life helped me land the role that I have now, because they've all helped form me who I am and what I am and what I believe. For this particular role, no. Specifically, the one I'm in now was one that just kind of popped up on the radar. It actually came from Indeed. When I saw it, I thought, man, this is something that, based on the criteria they were looking for somebody that actually had a Texas Peace Officer's license, was a CPP. And so I had both of those. They were also a bachelor's degree, but they really were liking someone that had a master's degree, which I have. So I think all of those things really helped me to maybe be a little higher in the pack whenever it came to interviews.
Well, that's great. And I think this is a great place to pause, because I want to when we come back, I want to discuss a little bit more about how you transitioned, and as well as what you look for in the job search, because like you said, you're getting all these things, and where do you search and how do you search? I want to hear more about how methodical that is. And what I'll tell people who are watching at home, make sure you're liking these, you're commenting below. I know Ernie will respond to them. I'll respond to your questions as well. Connect with Ernie if you haven't already. Follow Ernie if you haven't already, because no joke, Ernie, how many posts you put out a day on LinkedIn?
Well, whenever I was doing my job search, I spent 8 hours a day on LinkedIn, simply because when you're looking for a job, your full-time job is finding a job, and LinkedIn is the place to be for that. That has certainly backed off a little bit since, I got in this leadership role here, and, there's only so many hours in a day, and these responsibilities come first. But I shared enough jobs on LinkedIn that LinkedIn throttled me and wouldn't let me post anymore.
Really?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah. They throttled
LinkedIn,
me.
I'm going to tag them here, Ernie. So LinkedIn, pay attention. Ernie's out there helping people, and you throttled him. That's not right. So and you're putting out a ton of great content, Ernie. And I want people to connect with you. I want people to follow you. But we want to have a conversation with you if you're looking for a transition, or if you've already transitioned and you're looking to grow, or you're looking to learn, which you should always be doing anyways, because both Ernie and I are doing that as we speak. But we want you to interact with these, share them with your partners, and most importantly, don't go it alone. You're not alone. There's other people out there in transition. We're here to help. So stay tuned. Ernie, thanks so much for what you're sharing with us, and hang tight. We'll be back in just a second.